We love you.
Happy Mother's Day. I'll say, in our house, I don't need a break from washing dishes because Christian washes the dishes every day anyway. So, thank you. Thank you. Your service. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I want to celebrate and honor all of the moms in the room. I am particularly grateful myself for all of the mothers and older sister figures and mentors and those who have poured into my life and now those who are pouring into my children's life. Is anybody else going to struggle making it through the rest of the day without crying, after seeing all of those sweet babies up here? My daughter made it into the second service. I don't know how. She was not in the first service. She made her way up here for the second service, though, and just thank God that went okay, because when God blessed us with our firstborn, I was like, okay, this might not be so bad. And then he said, watch this, and he gave me my second. And that's what she does. She says, watch this. But motherhood it's beautiful work, but it is hard work. And before we go any further into this message and into this day, I feel like we need to just break the bubble of heaviness over this day and give voice and give space for both the sorrow and the celebration that goes hand in hand today. Because if we're honest, there are some of us in the room who dread this day, who don't look forward to it, who may have got dressed up today and we took our pretty picture in front of the backdrop out front, but there was somebody missing in the photo. Maybe you've lost a mother figure. Maybe you're grieving because you've lost a child. Maybe you are longing to be a mother and it's just not happened for you yet. Maybe you're a birth mother in here and you made that sacrificial decision to let your child be adopted by another family. Maybe you are a foster mom in here and you're walking through those seasons of life. I don't know where everyone in here is. I know some of your stories, but I don't know where everyone sits. And I know my story, and I know that Mother's Day is hard for a lot of people. So I just want to encourage you today, before we go any further, that you can hold both the sorrow in one hand and celebration in the other without guilt. They can exist at the same time, and it's okay. I remember my first Mother's Day and how excited I was and how incredibly honored and special I felt. But I also remember my first Mother's Day after having a miscarriage. I remember the tough Mother's Days. And I know for so many in here, there's heaviness today. There's hardship. And I want to encourage you, take the time today to cry. Let yourself feel that emotion. Maybe you're a daughter or a son in here who has a difficult relationship with your mom. Take the time today to allow those emotions to sit, because God is there in both the celebration and the sorrow. He meets us where those two combine and where those two meet. So don't feel guilty today for celebrating in the middle of the heavy, but also don't feel guilty for allowing the heavy to have its place in the middle of the celebration either. So we don't ignore that, and wherever we find ourselves in life today, we're building something. And this is not your typical Mother's Day message, and this hopefully will be something that applies to anybody, no matter what phase or stage of life you find yourself, but hopefully specifically to the moms, this is a message that applies to and encourages you. But today we're going to look at the book of Nehemiah. And I know Nehemiah is not your typical Mother's Day spot to land, but if you have your Bible, you can go ahead and turn to Nehemiah. I encourage you to read all of Nehemiah. It's not a super long book of the Bible, but I encourage you to take time this week to read the full story and get the full picture. But I'm going to summarize it for you today so that you at least have some context. So in the book of Nehemiah, we meet Nehemiah, and he is existing in a time where the Israelites, the Jews, they're kind of scattered all throughout still. Some of them are finding their way back to Jerusalem. There's pockets of them here, pockets of them there. But they're trying to get back to their home, to get back to the city of Jerusalem. And Nehemiah receives word that the walls of Jerusalem, his precious city, are broken. They're dilapidated, torn down. These beautiful, ornate walls that once protected the city are now laying in shambles. And that breaks his heart, and so he is burdened for the city of Jerusalem, and he seeks permission from the king and all the jurisdictions he's got to walk through and pass through to get favor and permission to go and rebuild these walls. He assembles a team, and they get to work. They work on these walls. They face opposition. They face trials. They face threats. And then eventually, they finish the work. Spoiler alert, they finish the wall. But Nehemiah, he wasn't just rebuilding walls, and I want us to draw a parallel between Nehemiah and our own lives and our walk in motherhood today. He wasn't just rebuilding walls, he was rebuilding a future. And that's what mothers do every single day. We're building futures. And for me, in the season that I'm in, my kids are about to be 8 and 5 next month. There are many of you in here who have adult kids, teenagers. You've just started the journey of motherhood, and you've got brand new little ones. And every season has its own challenges and its own unique rewards. But Nehemiah, when he hears about these walls being broken down, he immediately is burdened. In Nehemiah chapter 1, verse 4, it says, "As soon as I heard these words," being told that the walls were broken, "I sat down and wept and mourned for days. And I continued fasting and praying before the God of heaven." So our first point today is the burden to build. And I'm calling this message today in its total, Brick by Brick. It's very much inspired by my CrossFit Bohica family. And that is my gym family. If you don't have a gym family, I encourage you to get a gym family. I encourage you to have all the families, your church family, gym family, life group family, your work family, all the families. It's great to have community in all areas of your life. But my gym family are some of my absolute favorite people because they challenge me, they push me. They also see me every single day. So they know when something's off, they know when something's great, and I just love having that community. But I was looking to title this message something, and I could not, for the life of me, come up with a title. And I was like, Lord, you're going to have to speak, or this message is just going to be a message on Nehemiah. And I was at the gym, and right plastered on the wall in great big bold letters is every single day staring at it, it says brick by brick. Because when you're lifting weights and you're on that fitness journey, that's literally what you're doing, is building that strength brick by brick. And one of the most frustrating things for me, at least, is when I have the barbell in front of me and I think I've got a lot of weight on the bar and I'm able to move it really well, and I'm like, okay, this is great. I feel strong. I think I look strong. I'm bad. I can do this. And then I take the little tiny 2.5 pound plates and I just pop them on either side. And then I'm like, wait a minute, what happened? I can't pick it up anymore. Just that little bit of weight made such a big difference. But just because the barbell is heavy doesn't mean I'm weak. I was just moving it. And it's heavier than what it was 3 months ago or a year ago. But I added that little bit of weight, and now suddenly it's so heavy, I'm beating myself up saying I can't move it. I want to encourage you today that just because the assignment is heavy doesn't mean you're weak. Just because what you're holding, what you're building, what you're carrying feels heavy, it doesn't mean you're weak. Because the Bible is very clear. It says that in our weaknesses, Christ's strength is made perfect. He desires for us to recognize that weakness, to feel that weakness, to own it and live in it, because it's only then that we rely on his strength. So just because something is heavy doesn't mean you're weak. The worry that you carry, the care, the emotional weight, the constantly thinking about your kids, what breaks your heart often reveals what God has called you to build. You see, this isn't a random role that you just accidentally walked into. And I know there are some in here that really maybe believe they accidentally became a mom. But I can't tell you that is so far from the truth. God knew who your children would be. He knew that you would be their mother. And whether you are their foster mother, whether you are their biological mother, whether you are their birth mother, whether you're a mentor, whether you're a spiritual mother, God knew the relationship you would have with your children. And he knew that those children needed you and that you needed them. He knew it. And so don't allow yourself to believe the lie that you accidentally came to mother your children or that they accidentally came to be yours, because nothing is further from the truth. God entrusted you with these children. And it does feel heavy, but he has called you to build them. He's called you to lay brick by brick every single day in their lives. So Nehemiah, he feels the burden to build. The first thing he does is he weeps, he prays, he fasts, he goes before the Lord. And I want to encourage us all that that should be our first step anytime God burdens us with anything. Anytime that he breaks our heart for something, he calls us to something, our first response should be to pray, to fast, to go before him, to seek his strength and his will for the next assignment. And so he felt that burden to build. And so as they begin building these walls, he's not just building a new fence around the Bethel Church parking lot. He's building walls around an entire city. And it's huge, and it's massive, and it's expansive. And the different pockets of people building are all over the city at different points. So they're very spread out all across the city. And as they're doing this, not everybody's happy that they're building this wall around the city. And not everyone will be happy with how you're raising your children. Not everyone's going to be happy that you're teaching your children to walk in the way of the Lord. There's going to be opposition. And Nehemiah faced that. He faced opposition. In Nehemiah 4:17, it says, "Those who carried burdens were loaded in such a way that each labored on the work with one hand and held his weapon with the other. And each of the builders had his sword strapped at his side while he built, and the man who sounded the trumpet was beside me." And we'll get to that trumpet in a minute. But right now I want to focus on building while battling. If you're taking notes, that would be point number 2, building while battling. And motherhood very much is building while battling. You're nurturing your child while also battling the fear for their future and what they're going to encounter. You're taking care of them, but you're also facing worry and concern. You're spending time with and building that relationship with that teenage child, all the while still worrying and caring and fighting for the enemy that wants their very soul. You're building and battling at the same time. You're holding the tools of building in one hand, and you're holding a weapon in the other. You're showing up while doubting yourself. Am I the only mother who faces imposter syndrome? Like, God, you gave me these kids. I trust you, but sometimes I wonder what you were thinking. I know they're mine. I know I'm called to take care of them and build them, but I feel like the most inadequate person for the job. And I am grateful for mentors in my life who are further along in their journey of motherhood, who look at me and they offer the most encouraging words by saying, "It doesn't get any better." So I'm appreciative of all my great friends who've told me that along the way, from when I had my newborns, and they're like, "Oh, just wait, they'll be toddlers. You got your toddlers. Oh, wait." They start talking and forming full sentences one day. But we're only at age 7 and 4 right now, so we haven't reached the teenage years. But you're not just raising kids, you're warring for their future. And you're constantly being fed lies that you're a failure, that you're not good enough. And if we're honest, a lot of that, while it may come from people that we encounter, a lot of it comes from social media. And we're constantly scrolling, and we see these highlight reels of people with these perfect homes and these perfect outfits and these perfect lives and clean kitchens. I don't know who can keep it clean all week. There's, beautiful, clean living rooms and these beautiful pictures. But what you don't see are the camera rolls full of the behind the scenes. The camera rolls full of them getting the bad shot where nobody's looking at the camera. You don't see that all the stuff in their living room is actually shoved to the side while they get this one shot. That the counter's only clean in the kitchen because everything's on the kitchen table. And then when they go to take the picture of the kitchen table, they've moved all the junk to the kitchen counter. It's all a show. And so But we fight that. We have to fight that every day. And it's not just moms, but I find that the mothers that I interact with all the time, really, we struggle with that. We struggle with that comparison. Am I really doing a good job? And so you're building your children while off to the side, you're wondering, am I even good enough? You've got to take out the sword and you've got to fight the battle and tell those voices to hush while you build your children. You've got to tell them to be quiet. You've got to tell the voices of this world that they need to be silent because your God is bigger, your God is greater, and He has told you that you are more than a conqueror and more than an overcomer. The opposition that you feel is proof that what you're building matters. If it didn't matter, the enemy would not fight you as hard as he does. If it wasn't important, there would be no opposition. Why would the enemy waste his time with something that didn't matter or have eternal value? He's not going to fight you unless it mattered, unless it was important. And this is one of my favorite Pastor Steve quotes ever. And if you haven't noticed already, just by the title and point 1 and point 2, the alliteration that we're going with here, brick by brick, burden to build, building while battling, that's a total Pastor Steve move. And I am so excited about it. It's fantastic. When I first started coming to Bethel as a kid, that was one of the things that I remembered the most, was that all of Pastor Steve's messages, they usually had 3 points, sometimes 4. They all started with the same letter. And I could remember everything he said because I could hinge it on those letters every single time. But that's the English teacher coming out in me, and I loved it. But one of my favorite quotes from Pastor Steve is that it won't always be easy, but it will be worth it. It will be worth it. And if we can just look to that future time frame, for those of us in the thick of it with our kids, if we can look to that and hold on to that it's not going to be easy, but it is going to be worth it. And so as we're battling, we're building and we're battling at the same time. It continues on in that passage in Nehemiah 4, starting in 19. It says, "And I said to the nobles and to the officials and to the rest of the people, the work is great and widely spread, and we are separated on the wall, far from one another. In the place where you hear the sound of the trumpet, rally to us there. Our God will fight for us." The sound of the trumpet. When you hear the sound of the trumpet, rally. Everyone say rally. Our God will fight for us. You see, I'm the type of person who loves to build a wall. I find that I feel safer behind the wall of isolation, the wall of insecurity, the wall of I'm not going to let anyone in, because if I get too vulnerable with people and let them know what's really going on in my life, they're going to think I'm crazy. And so I stay back behind that wall. And I know there's many of us in here who do that. We hide behind that wall. We don't want to get vulnerable. We don't want to get too close. We're afraid we're going to get hurt. We don't want to open up. We might reach around the wall and help other people. We might open it a little to be a listening ear for someone else. Or we might just let a little bit out, but we keep that wall up. And what Nehemiah is saying in here is sound the trumpet. He's saying make as much noise as possible when the enemy is coming at you, when you're surrounded on all sides, when you've got this opposition in front of you. He's saying don't hide behind the wall. Sound the trumpet and make as much noise as possible so that the hundreds and thousands of us with weapons can come and rally with you and fight with you. And our God will fight for us. And I've been through seasons of isolation where I've removed myself from others, where I've created that distance thinking I was safer. I just want to encourage you in here today, if you're doing that, stop. Because you can't expect a village to show up for you if you don't go to where the villagers are. You can't expect everyone to rally behind you if you never sound the trumpet. If we don't know something's wrong, how are we supposed to help? God says, sound the trumpet. Tell somebody. Ask for help. Reach out. Sound the trumpet. When I was having coffee with a friend recently, and I say friend, and she is a friend, but she's not somebody that I talk to every day. You know, we've been more of acquaintances over the years. But she invited me to coffee. She said, the Lord has laid you on my heart, and I want to take you to coffee. So we went and we sat at a shop. And sitting across from her, I already told you I love to build up walls. And I was like, I'm not gonna open up to her. I don't know why the Lord laid me on her heart, but I'm not telling anybody nothing about what I'm feeling. And no, you're not coming in to my heart. And no, just no. As soon as I sat down, I looked across the table at her. The Lord was like, it's okay. It's okay. And so over the course of our conversation, I let her in. I told her some things that I was carrying that were heavy. I told her some burdens I was feeling that just felt like too much. And I let her in on some very personal things that just were happening in my life that were just really, really bothersome. And something shocking happened, and it shouldn't have been shocking. This should be normal. But I looked across the table, and she's crying. She's weeping. And I was so shocked that I started to cry too. I couldn't believe that somebody else would weep for my pain. That somebody else would look at me and feel such empathy for what I was going through that they would cry for me. And for some of us in here, you need someone to cry for you. You're sounding the trumpet and you need someone to see you and cry for you. Not just moms, but everyone. I encourage you to sound the trumpet. Let somebody in so somebody can cry for you. Sound the trumpet so that we can rally. Because when we rally, we can continue to build. We can fight the enemy off. We can live to fight and build another day. And we can get back to the work at hand. And when we get back to the work at hand, we realize that there's still so much work to be done. And so we move on to Nehemiah 6, which is arguably one of my favorite chapters in the Bible. And Nehemiah 6:3 is one of those verses that I hang on to when things get tough, when things get hard. This is one of those verses that I absolutely love. And in Nehemiah 6, verse 3, it says, and I sent messengers to them, talking about the enemies that are coming and trying to derail the work that Nehemiah and all of the teams are doing. I sent messengers to them. This is important because he didn't even have the time or deem it important enough to go himself and talk to them. He sent messengers to these people. He sent the messengers to them and said, I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. I want everyone to say, I cannot come down. I cannot come down. He said, why should the work stop while I leave it and come down to you? I love to read that second part with a little bit of like sarcasm and attitude because I just imagine Nehemiah working and he's got a sword and he's taking care of all these people and they're sounding a trumpet here and fighting here and going here. And then these people are coming in his ear and he's like, I ain't got time for you. Why should I leave what I'm doing and come down there to you and talk to you about this nonsense? I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. I cannot come down from the children that I am discipling. I cannot come down from the day in and day out of building my kids. It's hard. It's not easy. It doesn't look like anything's happening or working, but I have got the boldness and the confidence and the consistency to say that I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. And you have got to look the enemy in the eye and say, I cannot come down from this great work that I am doing. What I am doing matters and it is important. And what I am doing will have eternal consequences. And I don't have time for the nonsense. I cannot come down from this work. Some of the most spiritual and eternal things that you do will never be seen on a stage. And I know we're in graduation season, which is super exciting. And we've got graduates who are crossing stages in caps and gowns with accolades and medals and cords. And parents and grandparents are so excited and family members are so proud. And it is an exciting time. But when that child walks across that stage and shakes that hand and gets that diploma and walks down, that is a minute look into what was years and years of behind the scenes work. And the most eternal things that you will ever do are not watching them walk across the stage. It's not watching them receive their flowers and their accolades. It's the conversations at the kitchen table. It's the late nights. It's the prayers in the car. It's the tears after a hard loss in a game. It's those moments where you're laying brick by brick, where you're building something that is eternal. It's in the bedtime routine. And something about routine, building is routine and building strength is routine. When you're building something brick by brick, one at a time, it's routine. It's mundane. And it can be tempting to devalue that mundane work because it's just a little at a time. It can be kind of boring. It's not flashy. There's no lights on it. But that mundane work that you're building every day, it matters. That routine, that's where the strength comes from. And one of the things that I love about Nehemiah, and this is in chapter 3 of Nehemiah, I am very immature. I refuse to grow up. When I taught at a private school for a little bit, and I taught middle school English. I'm a former youth pastor as well, and I still refuse to grow up. Middle schoolers are by far my favorite humans in all the world. And I know for some, they look at me and they're like, you're not right in the head. Well, but they're incredible people. I love middle schoolers. They don't take life too seriously, and yet building a relationship with them is so rewarding because there's so much there. But they're also cool. They're also not too cool to think that some things are funny. And this is why I laugh in Nehemiah chapter 3, because it literally goes through all these gates that they're building, and all the gates have these really cool names. And then you get to this one gate, and they're like, and they rebuilt the dung gate. I'm like, dung, that's funny, dung. So they're like, I rebuilt the dung gate. And so I looked into it. I was like, I got to find out why they rebuilt the dung gate. Like, what is that? Why doesn't it have a cool name? It's the literal dung gate. It's the trash gate. It's the gate that they took all of the trash and refuse and nastiness out of the city so it wouldn't build up in the city. It's the literal dung gate. And when we're raising our kids and we're pouring into them, we have to take care of the dung gate. We have to make sure that we do the dirty, mundane things day in and day out so that the dirty trash does not build up in their hearts. We have to put effort into the things that seemingly don't matter, into the dirty work, into the things that are unassuming, embarrassing. I told you that my children are 7 and 4, and we were flying recently. And when we fly a very strategic way. With 2 children, you have to have a plan in place or everything will go wrong. And even with the plan in place, things will go wrong. So when we fly, especially, this is our plan for when planes have the 3 and the 3 and the aisle in the middle. And my 4-year-old sits at the window because she does not need to have access to the aisle. Nobody needs that in their life. The flight attendants would hate me if I did that. So she gets the window. I sit in the middle. My almost 8-year-old going on 27 sits at the aisle because he needs to be able to order his apple juice and his cookie. And he needs to have this armrest that he can put up and put down. And then my husband, he sits on the opposite aisle next to the strangers because I'm not sitting there. And by the end of the flight, he's in somebody's wedding and going to a family reunion. He's got all their information and their best friends on Facebook. They're getting off the plane, and he's like, hey, Mallory, I got to introduce you to so-and-so. I'm like, I got to get in a baggage claim. And these kids are covered in goldfish, and so am I. But no, I'd much rather be covered in goldfish than have to sit next to people and make small talk. And like, no, absolutely not. That's a nightmare. But we're on this flight, and I was not doing my due diligence in keeping up with the fluid intake of my 4-year-old. So she's had, I don't know how much water, she had apple juice, and she keeps asking for more things. And I'm just like, you're quiet, this is great, here, take this, take that. And so we're landing. And for those of you who have never flown before, when you're landing, you can't go anywhere. You are strapped in that seat and you're not going anywhere. You're not getting up, nothing. That's when she decides to say, I need the bathroom. Like, of course you need the bathroom right now. I said, well, there's nothing I can do. You're going to have to hold it. And then when we land, we're like in the worst part of the plane where I can't get you to the back bathroom, and we're going to be taking forever to get off the plane. So I said, you're just going to have to hold it. She's like, okay. And then she says, I can't hold it. I was like, you're going to have to hold it. So we've landed. We're unbuckling. She stands up and goes, I peed. To the whole plane. I peed. Thank you. Thanks. So while for me, raising young kids, those are what my dung gates look like, is I peed on an airplane and carrying a soaking wet kid off the plane to go find a place to change her. But for some of you, the dung gate looks a little bit different. And as a former youth pastor, I don't envy those of you who are currently raising teens. I pray for you, I applaud you, and I hope that one day you will have wisdom to share with me when it comes my turn to raise teenagers. But I don't envy that season of life that you're in, because your dung gate looks a whole lot different than mine. You've got some heavy, serious stuff coming into your house. You've got conversations that, who can make you ready for conversations like what you have to have with teenagers? It's hard. It's hard to be a teenager. It's hard to parent a teenager. It was hard to pastor teenagers. But in those moments, the mundane, day in, day out, those routines, those conversations, they matter. They matter. Even when they're heavy. Even when it's hard. God has called us to build, and you are building even when you don't feel equipped to do it. And the beauty of this story, and this is one of the reasons I love it so much, is that it has kind of a finality to it. They finish the wall. They finish it. In Nehemiah 6, it says, so the wall was finished, and it says it was finished in 52 days. Now that's impressive. Maybe they should have called Nehemiah to do the construction on Berkeley. That would have been fantastic. So he finishes it. And it says, and when all our enemies heard of it, all the nations around us were afraid and fell greatly in their own esteem, for they perceived that this work had been accomplished with the help of our God. And so point 4 is beyond the build. Because the dung gate wasn't just the only gate that they reconstructed, that they finished. And to me, even though it's really cool that they did it in 52 days, that's honestly not even the coolest part to me. And quite honestly, the fact that it says they did it with the help of our God, I think that's cool. God is great. So it's no shock that they finished it with his help. That's not even the coolest part to me. The coolest part to me is that one of the gates that they built, one of the gates they finished, was the Eastern Gate, the Golden Gate. That would be the gate that Jesus would come through on his triumphal entry. That would be the gate that Jesus entered. Had it not been for the work of Nehemiah, for the battling while building, for the boldness while they built, had it not been for that, that gate would not have existed. Where would Jesus have entered? And I want to encourage you today, you're building the foundation in your children. You're building the gate that one day Jesus will walk through in their hearts and in their lives. You're creating the atmosphere for Jesus to enter the room. You're setting the stage in their hearts. What you're doing is not in vain. What you're doing matters. The Bible says that the word of the Lord does not return void. It says that if we raise them up in this way, that they would not depart from it. The progress may feel invisible, but it is happening. And just because it is slow doesn't mean that it's not sacred. You may not see the full wall yet, but with every brick you lay, it's being built. And I feel like I should just say this too. I didn't say this in the first service. But you're also not the only one who can lay bricks in your children's lives. Other people and influences have the opportunity to lay a brick. Don't allow bricks to be laid in your kids' lives that have to one day be torn back down. We have a weighty work. Not just moms, parents, all of us. Aunts, uncles, grandmas, grandpas. In raising these precious children, like what you saw up here this morning, to love and worship the Lord. You can stand with me. Say, I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down. For so many of us, this day is so heavy. And I want to lift that just a little bit by helping us all. And this is something I'm saying specifically to the mothers in the room. Not just those who are mothers, the would-be mothers, the longing to be mothers, the birth mothers, the foster mothers, all the mothers, the aunts who act like mothers, all the mothers. You are a mother, that's true, but first you are a daughter. And when you realize and hold on to that identity and you allow yourself to exist, to build, to grow, to work from that place and not your title of mom, you will find the joy of the Lord that Nehemiah says is our strength for doing this work. You are a daughter. And I just want every woman in the room to say this out loud, whether you want to or not, just say it out loud. Say, I am a daughter. I am a daughter. And not necessarily the daughter of your earthly parents, because we know that that can be difficult. Those relationships can be hard. You're a daughter of the King. You're a daughter of God. He allowed his son to go to the cross and die. He sacrificed his child so that you could be his. And I have to honor that sacrifice by saying, I am a daughter, and that is the identity that I walk in. Because it is only in that identity that I can handle any of the weight that comes from raising kids or just existing in this world. So I am a daughter. But for some of us in here today, daughter or son, you would say, I don't have that relationship with the Father. I can't say I'm a daughter. I can't say I'm a son because I don't have that relationship with the Lord. So with every head bowed and every eye closed for just a second, if you're in here today and you say, I don't have that relationship, I can't say the joy of the Lord is my strength because I don't know the Lord. I don't have the relationship with the Father, but you feel that tugging. You feel that tugging in your heart. God's drawing you. He's calling you. He's saying, you are a daughter. You are a son, and I want a relationship with you. No matter how broken you think you are, no matter how far gone you think you are, I want you just as you are. So if you don't have that relationship and you want to have that relationship with the Father, I want you to just pray this with me. Say, Lord, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for trying to do this on my own. I'm sorry for ignoring you. I want a relationship with you. Thank you for sacrificing your son so that I could be your child. Forgive me, change me, make me new. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, if you prayed that prayer, whether it was the first time you've prayed it or you've prayed it before and you needed a fresh start, I don't want you to leave here today without coming down over here into this, where this banner is that says accepted Christ today, and talking with someone. Because that's how we begin to overcome the things in our life, is by the word of our testimony, which involves actually talking to a person. And so I want you to come down there before you leave today and talk with one of us. But right now, I want to invite and allow us to have a few minutes of just worship. If you're in this room and it's heavy today, I want you to just come down here. You say, I'm doing a great work. I can't come down, but it's heavy, and I need someone to rally with me. I need to sound the trumpet. I need to rally. I need somebody to stand with me. And if you see someone coming, don't let them come alone. Rally with them. We're doing a great work, and we cannot come down. This is how we fight. This is how we don't come down. Don't let somebody stand alone up here. Whether you're in here and you're a life group leader, you've been here for a while, you know how to pray. I want you to come and stand with somebody. Thank you, Jesus.